Welcome back to another episode of Be Bolder. Thanks again for joining us, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us through the ether. As always, we sincerely appreciate it. We're traversing the world of consistency once again this week. And before we jump into that, we wanted to remind you about our Be Bolder Bibliosophs and making sure that you sign up for that. And, you choose your journey if that's something that you want to do. Every month we have a nonfiction and a fiction selection that ties into the things that we're talking about here. And so I always think it's good to step outside of ourselves and read a little bit about others' journeys, true or untrue, fictional or not, and see how we can take things that we learned there and apply those to our everyday lives. So, last week we talked a little bit about Wintering by Catherine May. And this week, we're going to chat just really quickly about the fiction novel, 10,000 Doors of January. And that one's by Alex Harrow, if you're looking to pick it up. Super great book, super fun to read. It's really a beautiful tale of these overlaying realms of time. And the protagonist is opening doors that lead to different realms to try to find and reunite her family, because it turns out her parents are folks that maybe have come from different realms of time and have been lost to each other and, of course, to her. Now, she does all of this in the face of, well, one, danger, but two, she does it in the face of folks trying to constantly get in her way. And these are often folks of like power and prestige and influence, and they're constantly trying to shut these doors for her. And yet she perseveres and constantly is looking for the next door. And so, not really unlike our struggles in everyday life, there's countless things that are stacked against us, right? Whether it's we don't have enough resources, we don't know how to get to the next thing, we have a door that's closed in our face, we need to find another one that we need to open. And through it all, we have to forge on, persevere, stay on our path consistently, looking for and opening the next door so that we can ultimately achieve our goals, right? That's what consistency is all about. So if you're going to choose this book, I really do challenge you to ask yourself, what are you doing to consistently find and open your next door? So give that one a look if you're interested. Super fun and easy read. Now on to the meat and potatoes of today, right? So last week, we kicked off this new segment of consistency, accountability, awareness, and dedication, digging in pretty heavily on consistency and why people have a tendency to epically fail at being consistent. Largely, it's just because they're inconsistent. That seems like it would be simple, but so is being consistent if we're methodical about it each and every day. But we struggle to do that sometimes, and that's okay. So, now we're going to settle in a little bit more into consistency, particularly at doing it at our own pace. So let's go ahead and let's get started. You're lying if you've ever said that you are working towards a goal and you haven't found yourself tempted to fall off the track or get off the course. And more importantly, you're lying to you and you're lying to me if you are saying that you've never once played the comparison game. Okay, this is something that we all do. We call it imposter syndrome, the comparison game, whatever it's going to be. And that's you comparing yourself to other people and their pace as they're going and doing whatever they're doing, and you're marching to the beat of your drum, trying to accomplish your goals. Well, it's your race. It's your drum the drum beat that you're marching to. So ultimately, we shouldn't care about that, but it's really easy to slide into looking at what others are doing and feeling that pressure. And, we'd also be lying if we haven't all experienced those people who need to chime in on our lives and ask, why aren't you moving faster? Why aren't you doing it this way? Why aren't you, doing A and B and C? And, maybe they're comments or maybe they're jabs or maybe they're put downs, but it's hard to fight those off. I mean, look, yes, it's easy to stay in ourselves from time to time and just kind of keep marching forward. But when you have a constant onslaught of those from folks who are afraid to see you accomplish your goals and chase your dreams and achieve those big, hairy, audacious goals, what are they going to do? They're going to apply external pressure because your light and your greatness are just making them feel small. And so how do they react? Smallly. Okay. But that doesn't mean that doesn't hurt from time to time, and it doesn't maybe throw us off our game for a little bit. And so how do we go about our day setting aside the opinions of others and consistently staying on our course? Because if we're honest, like, that's a really bold and hard thing to do, because it's hard enough to stay on a course because it's hard. Number one, we talked about it last week, but we want to do things in our lives. We want to hang out with people instead of doing the thing that we said we needed to do. We also are feeling that pressure, like I just talked about. And so those factors kind of keep pressuring and pushing on us. And we have to push back against that and create space for ourselves to allow ourselves to be successful. So how do we solve for some of this? I think that's the more important piece here. And, in times like these, when you've got either you're playing the compare game or you've got people pushing on you and trying to get you to do something different or change your course or whatever, and it's not really great advice, they're just being challenging, but maybe it strikes a chord. I encourage you to think about two things. One, we're going to focus on you. It is not someone else's race. It is your race. It is your path. These are your goals, and it is not theirs. Okay. It is wonderful. If someone wants to say, hey, this is, what I did, or this is what I'm doing, like, cool. Like, happy for you. But this isn't my path. That's on my path. This one over here is, and I'm moving my glacier, like we talked about last week, and I'm achieving my things, albeit slowly sometimes. Doesn't matter. The glacier's still moving, right? And so secondly, I really thought about this in the context of the children's fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. Sometimes it is okay to be the tortoise. I mean, we all remember the fable, right? Where the tortoise and the hare, they're going to have a race. The hare is obviously built to win the race. The raw talent alone should be the thing that says this animal wins the race. But the hare was inconsistent. The hare was all over the place. Arguably, we could say the hare burned out because they sort of went really hard, really, really fast, and then sort of fizzled out, like a lot of people have a tendency to do. They try to do too much too soon. Whereas the tortoise slowly prodded along, doing the things that needed to be done each and every step of the way, and consistently moved across the path and ultimately finished first. And so, albeit the tortoise was slower, they were much more methodical, like we've talked about in terms of consistency, and didn't stop moving despite it all. And I think at some point, if I recall this, the hare was even maybe bullying the tortoise, right? So like, tortoise is also feeling this external pressure that we feel every day. And yet he just kept plodding along at his pace, moving, and ultimately won the race. Now, the hare should have won on raw talent alone, but you can always beat raw talent when that raw talent is inconsistent, it isn't focused, and it's just downright all over the place. Okay, so raw talent unharnessed and not put into a methodical plan is always beatable by consistent pressure applied day in and day out. So I always tell people to remember that, because people always tell me, well, this company is going to beat me to the punch because they have more money, or these people have more resources than I do, so they're going to do A, B, and C before I do. Maybe, but sometimes if you watch some of these folks, just because they have more resources doesn't mean that they are set up to win. They have a plan to win. A lot of times they just have resources, and that's great, but resources without a plan are still not exactly going to land you where you want to be. And oftentimes, people often say to me, well, that party has so much more money than I do. Even though they don't have a plan, they seem to be all over the place. And, but they're millionaires or whatever. And I have to stop people and say, well, you know how they got there, right? And they go, what? And I say, well, they started as billionaires. Right. So, folks without a plan, sure, they can have all the resources in the world, but not applied in the correct way, directionally, it doesn't freaking matter. If you are directionally applied the way that you need to be applied to achieve your goals, you're well on your way. You're already, like I said, in the top 25% here if you are on a pathway and sticking to your objectives day in and day out to check those things off your list and keep your ball moving forward. So I can't stress enough, it is 1000% okay to be the tortoise. You are moving towards your goals at your pace. It's not someone else's pace. It's not someone else who should be telling you how fast you should be doing it. A lot of times these people who are chiming in telling you what you should be doing, they're doing nothing, sitting on their hands being idiots, and they have the audacity to chime in on your life and try to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. That's like insanity. Yet we listen to it for whatever reason and we let it throw us off our course. So I say, don't. If you're moving forward, however slowly, and you are on course, achieving the things that you are set to achieve on your timeline, it's your race. It's your race to win. It's not theirs. Who cares what they say? Okay, so I know sticking to it can be really, really challenging, especially in the face of people giving you grief. But, I ask you, what is the boldest thing that you can really do? It's sticking to your timeline. It's letting the naysayers do whatever it is that they want to do and be difficult or chirp with their comments. Cool. But I would say if you're sticking to your plan and you're ultimately working towards that, you're going to be more than fine. So I do have to stress though, and let me be so clear, we all fall into the trap of worrying about when someone questions us. We fret about, what do the Joneses have? This isn't just in our business or trying to get to our next level in our corporate job or whatever it's going to be. It's really easy to say, oh, I'm on this plan financially for my life. And then you look around and you're like, oh, those people, they don't have as good of a job as I do. And they just bought a bigger house or a nicer car, or, they went on this great vacation or whatever. One, Instagram life isn't real life. Two, that's their path and not yours. And a lot of times, people get out ahead of themselves, get out in front of their skis. And so you always have to remember that. But I think it's also a blessing when we see some people maybe having some of the things that we're striving for, because it's the universe's way of saying, these things are coming. They're coming to others around you, and you're on a path and with a plan, and you have dedicated energy. So just imagine how great your thing can be when it finally comes to fruition. So I say that because, we all feel pressure when we're trying to do things or be things. And, we just want to make sure that we are staying on our course, because so many people want to chime in with their opinions, which are often uninvited, to try to throw us off course because they want us to play on their race course and run their race, but that's not ours. We're running ours. However fast, however slow, doesn't matter. What matters is it's yours. And we've all been there 100 times. I know I have, where folks question me, question what I'm doing. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it in the time frame that I'm doing it? It's my goal. And quite honestly, it's none of their business, right? I have people chime in all the time, like, why are you doing X, Y, and Z within your practice? Or why are you doing this podcast? Or you should do X, Y, and Z with your life. Thank you for your opinions that I did not ask for. I'm going to stay on my course doing my things, because that is the path for me. And I challenge you to take the path for you, right? But we always need to keep our big, hairy, audacious goal and the associated plan in mind, and remind ourselves that we're doing these things and doing them on our pace, at our time, in our time frame, in our way, is one of the boldest things that we can do, to stay on our path and accomplish the things in our time, not in someone else's, ours, because it's our goals, right? And ultimately, the rewards and the achievements of that are not some other Yahoo who's chiming in on your life. And hopefully it's not a loved one that's chiming in on your life, telling you can't, or you shouldn't, or you couldn't, or you won't. And if you do have those people in your life, I suggest you think about how to get them out of your life, but that's for a different episode. So the achievements and the rewards that we get for winning the race, or running the race the way that we want to run it, those are ours. Those are our accomplishments. They're not going to be someone else's. So why would you listen to the opinions of others when they're not the ones who are going to see the benefits and the wins of it at the end? You are. And so who cares what they think? You're running your race to win it in your way. So with that, I will tell you, remember that it is a-okay to be the tortoise. It's okay to be slow. It's okay to do things in a different time frame or a totally different way than the people around us do. Because ultimately, the people who are doing the things a little bit differently are often the ones paving the paths for themselves and for others to follow that no one else has ever broken the trail on. And when you do things like that, only great things can come. So with that, thanks as always for listening. Check out the book, like we mentioned, 10,000 Doors of January, or If the Spirit Moves You, nonfiction with Catherine May's Wintering. And as always, don't just be bold, be bolder.